My dad's story about our great-grandmother's possession in Thailand had always haunted me. I needed to know more details about it, so I asked my dad to tell me the story again. He provided me with more intricate details that he hadn't shared before. Before my dad began telling us the story about our great-grandmother's possession and unknown disappearance in Thailand, he started by describing what life was like for our family there. My grandma, who was his mother, lived in a small village in the northern part of Thailand. She had a simple life, taking care of her family, cooking delicious meals, and weaving beautiful traditional textiles. Her home was made of bamboo and had a thatched roof, and she had a small garden where she grew vegetables and herbs. The village where she lived was surrounded by lush green forests and rolling hills. It was a close-knit community where everyone knew each other and people helped each other out in times of need. Despite the simplicity of her life, my dad always spoke of his mother with great affection and admiration. He said she was one of the kindest and most compassionate people he had ever known, and that she had a deep sense of spirituality that guided her through life. It was in this village where my great-grandmother lived out the last days of her life, and where the odd events that my dad would later describe took place. Even though I never had the chance to meet my great-grandmother or visit Thailand, hearing about the life she led and the community she was a part of has always fascinated me. He explained that our great-grandmother's illness was a mystery. She had been bedridden for several months, and none of the local doctors could figure out what was wrong with her. She would mumble to herself and often spoke in a language that no one understood. Her family members would try to decipher her words, but it was impossible to make sense of them. As her health deteriorated, people started to believe that she was being tormented by an evil spirit. The Hmong people, who lived in the same village as our great-grandmother, believed in animism and shamanism. They consulted a shaman, who confirmed that an evil spirit had possessed her body. The shaman conducted a series of rituals to help our great-grandmother fight off the evil spirit, but it seemed like nothing was working. The family members were starting to lose hope, and they knew that it was only a matter of time before she passed away. One night, a few weeks before her death, our great-grandmother's behavior changed drastically. She would get up by herself at night, jump on chairs, and scream at the top of her lungs. Her eyes would be wide open, and her tongue would stick out. She would do this for hours until the sun was about to rise, and then she would go back to bed. The family members were terrified and didn't know what to do. They had never seen anything like this before. They consulted the shaman again, who confirmed that the evil spirit had taken control of her body completely. He said that they needed to conduct an overnight vigil to help our great-grandmother fight off the evil spirit and find peace. During the overnight vigil, our great-grandmother's behavior became even more erratic. She started to convulse, and her body contorted in unnatural ways. Her eyes rolled back into her head, and she let out a blood-curdling scream. The family members were terrified and didn't know how to help her. The shaman started to chant and perform a series of rituals, and eventually, our great-grandmother's body relaxed, and she fell into a peaceful slumber. The next morning, our great-grandmother passed away peacefully. The family members were relieved that she was no longer in pain, but they were also grief-stricken. They knew that they had to bury her according to Hmong traditions, which included a series of rituals and ceremonies. During the burial, it rained heavily, and the family members had a hard time keeping everything together. One of our great-grandmother's shoes went missing, and everyone was frantically searching for it. After hours of searching, they finally found it under my uncle's bed. It was an eerie coincidence since my uncle had no reason to have her shoe. After the burial, the people went back to their respective homes, but they couldn't shake off the feeling that our great-grandmother's spirit was still lingering around. My dad and uncle slept in the same bed where my great-grandmother's shoe was found, and they both heard strange mumbling sounds coming from under the bed. As the days went by after my great-grandmother's death, the villagers started to notice something strange happening. Their chickens were being killed, their heads chopped off and scattered everywhere. The pigs were also going missing. People went to search for their missing animals, but when they reached my great-grandmother's grave, they were in for a shocking discovery. It was like someone had dug out her body and taken it away. No one knew who could have done such a thing or why. It was a terrifying thought to think that someone could have stolen her body. One night, as the children were playing outside in the dark, they saw something that they would never forget. They saw an old grandma wearing the same clothes that my great-grandmother wore when she died, eating a live chicken. The kids were so scared that they ran back home as fast as they could. Till this day, my great-grandmother's body remained missing, and the villagers are still haunted by the mysterious events that took place after her passing. The memory of her possession and the strange occurrences that followed still lingers in the minds of those who were there to witness it. It's a story that sends shivers down my spine, and it makes me wonder about the mysteries that exist in this world. This story has stayed with me ever since my dad first told me about it. Despite my unease, I'm still curious about Thailand and hope to visit one day. The day I decided to surprise my girlfriend with a romantic date on her family's farm in the small village, my heart was beating fast with excitement. We had been dating for a few months, and I knew she loved the simple pleasures of life, like spending time with nature and enjoying the company of animals. I had planned everything meticulously, from the picnic basket filled with her favorite foods to the bouquet of flowers I had picked up on the way. As I drove towards the village, the scenery around me changed dramatically. The cityscape gave way to lush green fields, and the sound of traffic was replaced by the chirping of birds. I felt a sense of calm wash over me as I breathed in the fresh air and enjoyed the scenery around me. As I approached the farm, I couldn't help but notice that something was off. The usually bustling farm was eerily quiet, and there was no sign of my girlfriend. I got out of the car and started walking towards the farm, calling out her name. But there was no response, and my calls echoed into the void. As I reached the farm, my heart sank even further. The farm was in shambles, and there was no sign of any human or animal activity. The doors of the house were ajar, and I could hear the sounds of men shouting and trashing the place. My gut churned with fear, and I felt a wave of panic wash over me. As I tried to sneak around the house, I stumbled upon a group of men who had heard me and were now chasing me with weapons. I ran for my life, ducking and dodging their blows as I tried to escape. But they were fast and determined, and I knew I couldn't outrun them for long. Just as I was about to lose hope, I saw a glimmer of light out of the corner of my eye. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, but as I looked closer, I realized that it was my girlfriend's ghostly figure. She was surrounded by a soft, ethereal light, and her face was filled with love and concern. Without saying a word, she took my hand and guided me out of danger. Her presence gave me the strength and courage to face the men, and I fought back with all my might. But it was her ghostly presence that made all the difference, and I was able to escape the danger and reach safety. As I walked towards her village, I couldn't help but feel a sense of confusion and disbelief. It wasn't until I reached the village that I learned the truth. My girlfriend had passed away a few weeks before, and it was her spirit that had come to help me. The villagers told me that they had felt her presence in the village, and many had seen her ghostly figure wandering around. They said that she was still looking out for me, even in death. It was a bittersweet moment, knowing that my beloved was no longer with me in the physical world. But at the same time, it was comforting to know that she was still watching over me from the spirit world. Her love and care had transcended beyond the physical realm, and that thought gave me a sense of peace and comfort. I will never forget the horrors of that day and the pain of losing my girlfriend. But I will always cherish the beautiful memories of our love and the fact that she is still with me, even in spirit. Her love is eternal, and it will continue to guide me through life's challenges and adventures.